Let's rev those engines and burn those tires because it's time for Top End Talk with Nitro Alley.
And thank you, Bob Beck, for that introduction. And welcome to Top End Talk with Nitro Alley. I am your host, Nitro Alley. And today I am so very excited to introduce my very special guest, your NHRA Division 3 2024 Junior Street Champion, Sydnie Turner. Hi, Sydnie. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm super happy that you could make the time for me. I know it's kind of late in the evening for you out there.
It's okay.
Yeah. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a freshman. I play volleyball and I wrestle on aside from racing. I do a best buddies group for my school and I like to spend time with my friends.
Just a normal teenager. That sounds awesome. Now, I also hear that you're an honor roll student at your school. What kind of classes are you taking?
I currently take one dual credit class and all my other classes are just regular classes.
What is a dual credit? What does that mean?
So a dual credit class is a class that allows you to get an extra credit when you go into college. So for my school, it's University of Indiana.
Awesome. Good for you. Good for you. Do you have any favorite classes that you're taking?
I currently do not have any
No,
favorite classes.
I don't blame you. It's all the you have to take this just to get it done. Now, you said something about volleyball. You play and you coach volleyball. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I will start reffing for a PTVI that just allows me to understand the reffing part. And then where I work at the Y, I coach a youth group, any ages between 7 to 10.
Awesome.
And there, I'd say it's a really good experience for me just because of working with young kids is a great opportunity for anybody, really.
Well, I think it's great because you're kind of taking on that leadership role and that mentorship role as well, which is really quite impressive for somebody at your age. And then the other thing that you brought up that I find super exciting is you wrestle. And little birdie told me that you made the varsity team, the female wrestling team, as a freshman. That, go ahead and talk a little bit about that because we don't hear about female wrestlers too much.
Yeah, so when I first started, I was going to wrestle a weight class 120, and I did not know that there was also another girl wrestling 120. So I was kind of competing in the beginning. And then I decided to go down to a weight class going into 115. And going into that, I realized my competition was a little bit more hard than in the 120 class. So it really made me want to drive just to get better and to really learn what type of power I have.
Awesome. Now, what got you interested in wrestling?
Um, it really started when our volleyball coach reached out and they were like, "Hey, we need more girl wrestlers so we can have a team." And my parents were like, "You should do it. Just try it at least once or twice. Just go to a practice." And then I ended up liking it.
That's awesome. I know your parents have been huge for you just with pushing you to be the best person that you can. And we'll talk a little bit about them and everybody in a little bit. But the other thing I wanted to point out is you're a swim instructor at the YMCA.
Yes.
What ages are you teaching?
So I currently teach preschool that is aged from 2 anywhere to 6. And then I will also end up taking some youth classes sometimes, which is about 8 to 10. And then I also will cover for some people when they really need it, and I'll teach the swim team.
That's fantastic. Now, I mean, I can only imagine that there's some obstacles that you have to face with, especially with the little ones. They get so scared. What are some of those obstacles and how do you overcome them?
I know a lot of little kids are scared of water or thinking like they'll go down and never come up, but I just try to work with them like small building blocks. I try them to have their put their chin or their mouth or their nose or even the side of their head in the water just to get them used to it. And I never peer pressure them into anything.
Oh, that's really sweet. And then you also mentioned the Best Buddies program, so what exactly is that and how did you get involved?
So in middle school, they were offering this peer mentoring group, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew I wanted to get into some type of club that went with the school, and I was not really sure. And then I walked in there, and they were telling how you work with the educational kids, and I was like, oh wow, this is probably a great opportunity. So then I started doing it through 7th and 8th grade, and then I started in high school. In high school, it's called Best Buddies. So it's an opportunity where you get to work with the special educational kids, and you get to go do activities with them during school, or you can even do activities with them outside of school. And I realized that it's one really big group that goes on just in the United States. Like, it's not just a school activity.
Awesome. I love that. So you're doing hardcore academics, you are doing all of these extracurricular sports, and you're also making time for other kids that really need your friendship. I think that's beautiful. And I was also told that you're kind of, you said something about the dual credit, but you're working on graduating high school early. What would you like to do after high school?
After high school, I would like to go to a trade school because a trade school is, I feel, which I have looked into, is giving me better opportunities. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to go to University of Northern Ohio over in Lima, Ohio.
What kind of trade are you interested in learning?
I want to do either motorsports or diesel mechanics.
What do you mean by motorsports?
So their motorsports offers you a spot with working with their racing team that they actually have. And I want to learn how to work on race cars or how to build race cars and just be near one at least, just because that's really, really what I want to do.
Would you ever want to work for a pro team?
Yes.
Do you have one in mind that would be your dream team to work for?
I know SRT Dodge for Matt Hagan or Tony Stewart would be a really big one that I'd want to join.
So take note, Matt Hagan. You got an apprentice right here that's willing to work for your team. So no, that would be really awesome. Now, another thing that I really love about you is your service to the community. You're working on, a fundraiser for school supplies for children that are in need.
Yes. So I was talking to my grandparents the other day about just doing extra things and volunteering since I'm working on getting a higher degree. When I graduate high school, I want to get a technicals honor. And I was like, oh, what's more than just volunteering? What can be more top tier than just volunteering at some place? And I was like, a fundraiser, that's a perfect idea. And since I'm always at the track during summer and 8 months out of the 12 that we have during a year, I'm there. So, and it's a really, really big community. We're all like family there. So why not bring people together to donate to people that, hoping we can do IPS schools and get kids that need more help to be able to afford those things, just to get them where they need to be in life. Because all kids, no matter what age, deserve to be able to get the education that they need.
Awesome. And now I know you're taking it a little step further too, that you are also trying to help the less fortunate, the unsheltered, the homeless with doing a clothing and blanket drive. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, so the last month of racing season, or even when we have division finals, or even starting when we have U.S. Nationals, because that is actually the biggest event in racing. So starting from August when that event takes place, I want to start collecting blankets, gloves, socks, sweatshirts, sweatpants, whatever we can, just to help out the people that are less fortunate and to make sure that they are warm and they can at least stay healthy during those cold months that are coming up after the racing season.
Now, if people wanted to donate to you prior to that event, are you accepting donations at your pit of the school supplies, of the warm clothing, all of that?
Yes, I plan to be able to start taking them once I confirm with Max that we can start doing this. And once I just talk to the schools about it and just find a fundraiser that'll do the drive for the less fortunate, I'm hoping that I can start taking donations as soon as possible.
Awesome. So let's shift gears for a minute, though. The main reason you're here, is your racing. Now, where did your love of racing start?
So my papa has a 71 Nova that he has had way before I was born, and he has been racing my entire life. Like, I go back and look at pictures that he's had way before. Like, I remember when we first got our enclosed trailer, and it was in 2015. And funny story, I actually got shut and locked in that trailer the day we got it with my best friend, and I was like, okay, I got to be a little careful in this trailer. So there's a lot of fun stories with me growing up with them. But I started going with the racetrack with my papa when I was about 6 years old. And there's pictures. I was actually trying to find one earlier, but there's a picture of me probably waking up at 7 or 8 in the morning, probably at the age of 7, and getting up to go to the racetrack with him. So as long as I can remember, I have been up and going with him as much as I can. And it's been a big part of my life that as long as I can remember. I've always wanted to be around cars. There's pictures of me at our shop that we have, and cars have just been a big part of my life.
And that's awesome. And that's one thing that, we always try to talk about is, bring your children, bring somebody to the racetrack, because all it takes is just once. And then that love and that passion. I mean, look at you smiling right now. You can tell that you absolutely love it. It's a great thing. And that's one message that we're trying to relay is bring them to the track, start them young, and that's exactly what your family did for you, and now you're racing the junior street class, which in my opinion isn't getting enough publicity. So if you don't mind, would you mind explaining what the junior street class is all about?
Yeah. So junior street is an alternative to junior dragsters, but you cannot start as young. You start at the age of 13 and you can go all the way to 16 until you can get your driver's license. And you can race a street legal vehicle with an adult that is licensed, obviously. And you can only go 9 seconds down the track in the 8th mile. And I would say it's probably one of the best experiences that you can give your kids. And you don't need you don't need $1,000 race car. You don't need to be going fast. You don't need to have the best car in the world to be in this class. You can just have any street legal class or street legal car.
Right. No, I think it's great because really all you don't even need a fire suit, correct?
I believe you do.
Okay.
Because I know there are rules starting to be made in NHRA that you can't just wear pajama pants and you can't just wear a sweatshirt. You have to actually have at least a 1-layer fire suit.
1-layer fire suit and a helmet. And that's really the only investment that you have to make, which is minimal compared to, like you said, with some of these junior dragsters, it can cost thousands of dollars, and now you can take the car that you take to the grocery store or to school or whatever and bring it to the racetrack and have a great time. Now, how did you find out and get involved in this particular class?
So when I was growing up, I always remembered seeing teenagers racing in cars. And when we started talking about either getting me in junior dragsters, I was like, what was that class? And I could never really remember. And they were like, oh, it was the high school class. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it was something else. So then I started digging deeper into it. And someone that we now know that races was actually in the class. And I remembered him. That's how I knew specifically that there was another class. And I started looking into it, and it was junior street. So when I found that out and I knew that Indy had at least raced it at one point, I was like, oh, let's see if Indy can get this started back up. Well, that was not a very easy task at all.
Well, I know you fought really hard. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about, what had happened with you and how you made it happen.
So I remember when I finally turned 13, because my birthday is literally right before racing season, my papa, he was trying to contact them and hey, can we get this program started? Hey, is there anybody that wants to do it? And I know, right before racing season, they ghosted it, and I was like, that's not right. Don't do that. That's just something that I found really wrong. So one time I was going to practice, And my grandma was telling me about how they had ghosted him, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let that happen because that's just wrong. So I sat over there real quiet in the passenger seat, and I typed out an email all the way to Mike Walker, who runs Indy, and I was like, hey, I turned 13. I've been waiting a few years now since I've done multiple sports, and I really want this class to be just included in the races just to see if we can get it going. And if there's any way possible for me to promote it or just get this class started somehow, I would appreciate if we could get it going. And that's when they had reached out to my grandparents later, I think that night, and they called them. They were like, hey, is this your granddaughter, your daughter? She reached out to us, and she persuaded us, I guess, somehow. I didn't know I did it, but I guess I had.
So you've really been instrumental in the development of that program there at your local track. That's pretty big accomplishment for a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
So good for you. And how many kids in your area are running that class right now, if you know?
We had 3 to 4, and then one of our guys dropped out because he ended up needing to have surgery because he did sports also. And then it got down to 3, and then we had 4 again, and I think we're going back to 3 next year for this coming up year.
Yeah, hopefully we can get the word out there. We can get more youth your age in that class, because I know it is growing at each individual track, which is good. And again, it's developing the sport, it's supporting the track as well. Now, what kind of vehicle do you drive when you do race?
I currently drive an '06 Duramax, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get in one of my grandparents' pickup trucks.
Awesome. That's a pretty big vehicle. About how much does that thing weigh?
6,900 pounds with
Oh
me.
my gosh. That's got to be pretty hard to cut a good light on something like that, but it sounds like you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And how fast are you going in the 8th?
So I am technically only allowed to go 9 seconds in the 8th, but at US Nationals, I cut about an 8:64 going down that track.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oops. You probably got the little, hey, slow it down a little bit, sunshine. I know I've seen those talks happen on occasion, but at the end of the day, I know you're being safe and they're watching out for your safety as well. So now you're in Division 3. What racetracks do you currently compete at?
So I currently my main track, my home track is Indy, obviously, but we like to expand a lot. So we'll go down and race at Brown County, Muncie, and we're trying to get out to Bunker Hill if we can. And we also race at Edgewater.
Awesome. I know that's a phenomenal track to race at, and they're very supportive of the kid programs. Now, with everybody, when they get their first Wally, it is a very memorable event. It is very special. It's very emotional. Tell us about that first time that you got your Wally.
I got my first Wally at the division finals when I won. I had been in a huge slump. I hadn't won any of my bracket races down at Indy. I didn't win anything, didn't even get past first round down at Beach Bend. So I went into this just thinking, just do it for fun. Just do it to meet people. Just have a good experience here. And I think it was the 3rd day that we did our test runs. I got a triple light, I got a triple low, and I go, this is going to be a good race. This is going to be my weekend. This is going to be when I can make a difference. And I had some questionable lights there in the first few test runs, and then I had decent lights when I finally made it into those meaningful runs. I went into that last round thinking, if I don't win, I don't win. If I win, I win. I'm here to have fun. I'm just here to do my thing. I went down that track against who I didn't even know, barely made 6 passes, but had made it into the final round. I was so nervous because I know there was first time luck. for people. And I went down that track doing what I did, doing what I knew what to do. I saw that wind light come on. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there in shock. I know my papa was over there in the passenger seat going, "Oh my God, you're the Division III champ. You just won this thing." And I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And the guy that was our ticket person had been there every time, every day, and he was like, "What was that light?" Or "That was a good light." Every time something would happen. And when I went down that road, he was so excited for me, and that's when I knew. I was like, people here are so supportive. People here have faith in you. It was exciting. I don't even know how I feel still. And the fact that I was the only girl there that had won that night, it was a lot.
Well, you can see that you're beaming right now because you're going back to that time. And I think that's special. That's really special. And I know you haven't been racing for very long. And that, the championship is truly a memorable event. But during, your racing career so far, has there been anything else, any other moment? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a win, any other moment that really stands out that has made your amateur racing career truly special?
I would say my first ever race competing was a big deal because obviously it was my first time ever going down the track competing against somebody when it really mattered. But it's when my papa told me, "You're not always here to win. You're here to collect data." And every time I've lost, every time I've been, yes, I'm upset, but I'm okay. It's always the same thing. We're here to collect data. We're not here to always win. And that's when I realized racing isn't always about the winning. It's about the friendships, and it's about learning different things and the opportunities you get to have in this sport. So I'd say when my first race, when he first told me that, and that's something I always remember. You're not always here to win.
I love that. And that kind of coincides a little bit with my next question for you. Every racer has bad days. They have bad runs. There's something that's bad, that they're just not feeling good about. But there's always a lesson to be learned from that negative pass. Tell me about a moment where you got just the greatest learning moment that you've had so far.
My greatest learning moment was actually right before division finals. My truck kept having a lot of problems. I know our injector fuels were broken. I know we had an engine problem. We had an exhaust leak. So the first a month or two before division finals and trying to get prepared for it, I was in two different vehicles. I had been racing in my grandma's Tahoe. I was racing in a pickup truck. I qualified in a whole other vehicle that I went and raced in at division finals. So just knowing that when you are struggling and you don't think that anything is possible, it is all worth it in the long run because those new opportunities, like that truck I qualified in for division finals, is the truck I will be racing this year, hopefully. So just knowing that in the long run, it'll all work out, it is going to work out.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's fast forward a little bit to the banquet that you guys just recently had. How did it feel when you were presented that championship trophy and that jacket?
I was the very last one, I believe, or one of the last ones to be awarded or gone up there and brought up there to talk, and everything else after was the driver of the year and stuff. And I was the only girl, and I was nervous. I didn't know. I mean, I prepared, but then it all went away because I knew I didn't want to have something just written and I didn't want it to be I didn't want it to just come from what wasn't really my heart at that moment because I knew I was going to feel a whole different way when I was actually up there. So when I got up there, yes, there were a lot of people, but I knew what I wanted to say. I knew from my heart that it was really about who got me here, made this all happen for me. Second I got up there, I was like, oh, I can do this. This is easy. I've talked in front of a bunch of people. I got so emotional. There's pictures of me looking like I was about to cry, and I was about to cry. And it was just a lot of emotion.
But that's beautiful because, again, it shows that you're passionate about what you do and you value everything, the entire process, everything that people have contributed to you, whether it's time, energy, part, money, support, love, friendship, all of it. You value that and you don't take it for granted. So getting emotional, I think, is a very good thing. And I respect you for that, and making yourself vulnerable to really, share those emotions and feelings with that room, because I can guarantee you everybody in that room has felt that same way too, so I think it's a wonderful thing, especially at your young age. It's hard to do public speaking. I know some adults, they get sick if they have to go do any kind of public speaking. So, it's hard to be put up on that pedestal. But speaking of kind of changing gears a little bit there with public speaking, now that you've got this prestigious title, I hear you kind of want to start a racing media career where you go around, interviewing different racers and doing all that fun stuff. And I know for a fact that funny car driver Jim Campbell wants to be your first interview. So tell us a little bit about what your vision is with doing that at the racetrack.
So my vision for this is I want to go to obviously as many racetracks as I can. That's just an experience I want to be able to have. But I want to be able to interview either just the workers at the track, like the ticket lady or ticket guy, or the person that up at the start line or something like that, because I know a lot of people at Indy start line. And then I also want to be able to interview the winners of each class and see how they felt, because you always want to know different people's experiences. And then at bigger events like PRI and Indy Nationals, of course, I want to be able to interview the funny car, dragster, bike people, and see how their first experience was going down the track. See if they remember their first time ever on track. And then, as Jim told me, he wants to show me around his funny car and how everything works. So I'm hoping this is going to give me experience to learn more about the racers and the drivers and learn like how they got into this and how their perspective is on the sport. So I just want to be able to see different people's perspectives, basically.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And I know Jim, he was so excited to talk to you the other day. He is a huge support of this program. He's a huge support of youth in motorsports. And I know, when he brings you into his pit and puts you in that car, he's totally going to be mentoring you and showing you. And he's got a great respect for you, and all kids going through the ranks, starting at such a young age. It's really, really important and valuable. So, one thing I like to ask anyone that I interview, it's kind of a fun question. Tell us something quirky or odd or something that maybe people didn't know about you. Anything.
Oh my. Okay, so it's kind of quirky, I guess you could say, and it's not something that happens all the time. It was just a one-time thing, but it's literally every time. But the first time I had an interaction with Matt Hagan was at US Nationals. They were tearing down his car after qualifying rounds and like putting everything back together and making sure his car was ready for the next day. Him, Leah, and Tony were all signing things at this booth, and he walked out of his trailer and walked under the things that barricade their car or whatever. And there were like two other kids standing around his thing. And he comes up to me and goes, "Would you like a picture?" And I'm flabbergasted. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no way this is happening. And I was like, yes, of course, of course. So my papa's rushing, like taking out his phone, trying to find his phone and gets a picture. He walks away and I burst in tears. I just laughing, crying, so many different thoughts in my head. It was just crazy. So every time I get the opportunity, like at PRI, I was like, Deanna, one of my friends that work for NHRA, I was like, Deanna, I want a picture with him. Let's get a picture. So we were trying to follow him around, get a picture with him. Because if Matt Hagan can remember me, there's a chance that one day I could probably work for him.
Well, I think we could probably make that happen. And like I said, I'm hoping to come out to the Indy race and PRI. And I know he's going to be at both. And maybe we can get you over there to chat with him a little bit. And I'll definitely let him know that who you are and all these great things that you have accomplished. And I know Deanna and Kista and William and everyone there at NHRA. And just to let you know, NHRA is the one that nominated you for the Peek into the Future Driver of the Month. So they are paying attention to everyone out there on the track, and you truly impress them. And that is a huge compliment to get that recommendation from NHRA. So, and getting you this far takes a lot of dedication and support from your family. And I know you know that. And I know you get emotional, and that's okay. But I'd like you just to kind of take a moment and look into the camera as if you're talking to your family and let them know how grateful you are to them, and just give them a few words of appreciation.
I would like to thank my papa for all of this. He is the one that motivates me to get out there, just go, get it done. And then I would also like to thank my grandma, who is the one that makes sure I am prepared for everything, always making sure I'm doing things right, always making sure I get what's done. She's my main person that gets me going, like, do this, do that, make sure you get this and that, because in the end, she's the reason why I can, I'm the person I am now because of her. She's the one who taught me how to get things done, and hard work makes a difference. And then I'd also like to thank my mom and my stepdad, because without them, I wouldn't have made it this far, obviously. My mom is like my go-to person. If I'm upset about something or I'm really excited about something, she's probably the first one I go downstairs and tell. So those 4 people are my main people that I'd really like to thank.
Awesome. It sounds like you have a wonderful support base and a wonderful family. And I know your grandmother, I've actually spoken to her on the phone a couple times, and she is so incredibly proud of you. And I know she speaks on behalf of your entire family as to how proud they are, not only as the person, winning the track championship, but really the beautiful human being that you are turning into with your hard work at school, your dedication to your sports, your teammates, your peers, your community. You are a diamond in the rough, my dear. You are that unicorn. And it's really a good thing. And I think that goes back to how well you were raised and the support base that you have at home. So I want to say thank you, to your family for doing such a good job. And keep up the good work for you too. Listen to them. They love you. They aren't going to steer you wrong, and they obviously have your best interest at heart. And I think that's really, really wonderful. Now, in addition to your family, which sponsors would you like to give a shout out to?
I currently only have one sponsor, and it is my grandparents' shop, Beach Automotive. They last year they sponsored Indy's pro class and obviously my junior street class. But every time I go down to the track, I love to give them a huge shout out.
Absolutely. Now, what kind of sponsors are you in need of for the upcoming season?
So I'm currently looking for someone who is able just to get us where we need. So anytime our car breaks down, that's a really expensive fee right there. I know parts for like the older vehicles are top dollar nowadays because they're so rare. And then our travel fees, we like to go to different tracks, have different experiences. And travel fees, especially these days, are not cheap. And then I know my experiences, we've had some tire blows out before. That's not a cheap cost. So just any way that they can help out. I'm looking for people who are more like car related. I've reached out to Cummins. I've reached out to people like Allison Transmission, people who are just part cars. And then there's also people I've reached out to that are not car related, but I'd really like people that are in the car industry.
Absolutely, because then you can better represent them. So basically, if you can get sponsors, even to financially sponsor a race, or maybe get a tire sponsor, even major distribution chain, or somebody great like Hoosier, who's really good with sponsoring. And of course, we're well aware of their Hoosier Heroes program, which is something you should probably have your eye on in the future. I'm just saying. So if anyone out there is willing to even sponsor a single race to get Miss Sydnie to where she needs to go, that would be very beneficial to really supporting her career, or just, get her to put a sticker on the window of the car or the truck, pardon me. Anything you can do to help to really support her in her growth and the dream. And you're supporting the racing industry, and you're also helping to support the tracks that she will be visiting. So it really does come full circle that you're supporting racing as a whole when you support Miss Sydnie and her future, races this year. Now, I know you've got social media. Where can sponsors find you on social media if they want to contact you and offer you some opportunities?
So I would say Instagram is probably the easiest way to find me. Sydnie Turner Racing. And then my Instagram will also have my Facebook and my TikTok account that has the TikTok for top interviewers to watch those if they would like. I plan on posting just how racers kind of get ready with me. It's like heading out to the track and what we do before we race, during the race, going down the track for tests, just my experience really. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that you can do.
Awesome. So everybody, make sure you go to all social media platforms, give her a like, give her a follow, share her content as well, because that helps get the word out with who she is, what she's doing, the Junior Street program, the NHRA, the drag racing, all of it. Give her a follow, help support those pages. And again, if you can support her in any capacity, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. Definitely reach out to her. And Sydnie, I am so excited for you. I'm really excited to see what this season is going to bring for you and just your growth. And I'm thrilled to follow you through this journey that you will be having.
Thank you.
No, it's been my pleasure. And I really do thank you so much for joining me tonight. Congratulations on the championship and all of the positive things that you're doing. I really appreciate you being here. All right, you guys. Yeah, and thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate you tuning in. Remember to go out and support your local drag strip, racetrack, any kind of racing venue. Bring a friend. Let's all support racing together. And I say it every time. God bless you. God bless America, our military, and our first responders. And I'll see you next time on the top end. You guys have a good night now.